So wonderful. It's Monday, right? Hello, LinkedIn and everywhere else. This is streaming live. Welcome to Talk About TV, where we talk about all things experiential outdoor hospitality. I'm your host, Michelle Oliver, and today I am so excited to be here with Scott Bahr from Cairn Consulting. Scott, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for accepting my invitation because today we are going to talk about something that hardly anybody talks about, really, which is data. Data, data, data. And not only that, but once you have the data, what the heck do you do with it? How do you execute on that data? It's so interesting. I have a lot of questions for you, but I'm going to toss this to you. And maybe you'd like to just do a very short introduction, tell everybody what you're doing with research and why you love to dig into data, Scott.
Okay. Um, yeah, in terms of a brief intro, anyone if you don't know who I am and what I do, you've probably seen the results of some of the work I do. I work directly with KOA on the Camping and Outdoor Hospitality Report every year. We've been doing that for 11 years now. We also do, some ongoing research that comes out quarterly or periodically as well. I work in the RV industry quite a bit with the RV Industry Association via Go RVing as well. I do some quarterly polling with them. If you ever see figures on the number of RVers who are going to go out RVing over the 4th of July. That's me. I do that work. I work with some RV manufacturers and suppliers as well. And I have throughout the years. I work in the outdoor industry. I do some travel tourism research as well. So and most of my work is primary research, which means I go out and gather the data. I gather the information, usually via surveys, and I've been doing it for quite a while. I've been working in the hospitality world for quite a few years, and in outdoor hospitality in particular for about the last 20 years. So that's kind of where I'm at. I work with the data. I'm immersed in it. I it's one of the things I enjoy doing. I feel like the more you get yourself into the data, the more you see, the more you understand.
Mm.
And an important part of what we do is stuff like this, where we talk to other people and we hear what they're doing. And that always makes us better at what we do. It makes what we do more relevant because that's our goal, is to make sure the information, the data that we get is relevant.
You're so humble about all of this. That KOA report is a staple and a powerful thing that everybody refers to. I think one of the things I've noticed in my short time in outdoor hospitality is people come in with so much enthusiasm, so much vision and excitement to create these properties with no understanding of the challenges that lie before them. And I have yet to meet someone who has really done their research, to be honest. Like they don't know where to go to do it. They think that it's a simple type of business model, and those of us who've been inside of it know that that's not really true. So, yeah, I think the value of data is everything. I mean, educating yourself on what has been so that you know how to move forward and create what you really want to create.
Absolutely. And the one of the things I try to encourage is for people to ask questions. Ask
Hmm.
a lot of questions, but also with the idea in mind that one, you should have multiple sources. You should talk to people who are experts at what they do. Um, I think it's really important for people to understand that um, when you're out there and you're gathering, there's the difference between an anecdote and information is one that everyone should always have in the back of their mind. An anecdote is when someone comes to you and says, "You really shouldn't do this because I did it and it was a disaster." Okay, that's an anecdote. Um, that person, there's a lot that can contribute to that, and maybe it's real. I don't know, I can't say without going in and finding out more. Maybe it begs the question that you need to find out more. So if someone says, well, don't put in, hot tubs at every unit because it didn't work for me. Well, maybe your customer base is different. Maybe you're in a different location. Maybe that person made some mistakes along the way. But again, it seems to be one of the battles that I try to fight quite a bit is to take away the anecdote and say, I'm going to substitute that anecdote with information and say, here's what I know. And if I don't know the answer, it's like, here's what we should do to investigate that further. Here's a plan. Let's research it. Let's figure out what needs to be done because we don't want to make decisions off an anecdote. And I could
That is
go
such
on
a,
and on about that, but
oh
it's
my gosh. It's so, I want to say it's so obvious, but it's not really. We do make decisions off of anecdotal evidence and friend and family referrals. And wow, that's not the way to go. Yeah, it's
no,
just
it's
not.
not.
Mhm.
Right, but if you think about what you just said, someone could go to um a resort, a park, a campground, and maybe they had an awful experience. Maybe something happened there during that. And they're going to come out and they're going to say, don't ever go to this place because they're horrible. Well,
Right.
go and do your background, look at maybe the reviews of other people who have stayed there. You'll get more information. And maybe if it's a place you're interested in staying, call them yourself and say, hey, a friend of mine stayed there. They really didn't have a good experience. Could you elaborate? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that kind of conversation. And any person in the industry should welcome that kind of inquiry too, because it allows you to have that interaction. But again, it takes, the idea of the anecdote. It it may have been true, and maybe it is a bad place. It could be.
Yeah,
You
for
may figure
sure.
that out. If you read the customer reviews, if you ask around a little bit more, you may find that out. But don't don't just make all your decisions based on that. I can't emphasize that strongly enough, obviously.
Yeah. Could you give an example, perhaps out of that KOA data that you compile?
Mhm.
Um, Something like a lot of the clients that we work with, they've never done this thing before. Okay, they've been successful in other type of investment properties, multifamily, etc. And they come into outdoor hospitality and but man, it's just a nightmare, to be honest. We come in when they're
Mhm.
feeling the pain in all these different areas. And then we do exactly what you say because we know, well, here's what we have learned, and this is the data, and this is how you execute. These are the steps you need to take. Are there a few things that maybe you could give some examples from KOA, like for an RV resort? Let's say I just bought an RV resort and it's just not working out the way I thought it would. What are some of the things that I should look at?
In terms of, something that always pops out to me is the idea of people who say that a campground or let's say an RV park or resort doesn't have sites available. But if you talk to the park owner, they're going to say, we have plenty of sites. What happens a lot is the type of sites that they want, that they, for example, if they want a pull-through site, those are obviously very, very much in demand. And if you look at the report, you look at the data, you'll see always near the top among RVers is the idea that they want pull-through sites. It's it's really what they're seeking. So in if you take it from the perspective of the park owner or manager, if their pull-through sites are filling up really fast, and someone inquires about making a reservation, is maybe that person has a hard time parking their RV. Um, and that's a real thing. I just literally earlier spoke with my sister who is a harvest host, and someone knocked over the sign on the way into her farm because they cut the corner too much, and with their trailer they plowed over the sign. Um, so you have a lot of people out there who have difficulty driving and parking their RVs. And I'll try not to make this a really long answer, but the fact of the matter is that the sites you offer, you may have plenty of sites and you may have some really good sites, but the person who inquires, they generally want a very specific type of site. So it's kind of now your opportunity to figure out how to bring those people in. How do you address that person who wants a pull-through site, but you don't have one? So in our data, we'll always say, for example, pull-through sites are ranked one of the top considerations among RVers when they're choosing a campground. But you, again, have that opportunity as an owner to try to address that and think of that in your communications. Think of it in the inquiries and how you position your park. And by the way, if you have a ton of pull-through sites, shout that from the rooftops. Make sure that everyone knows that you have pull-through sites because the people will be attracted to that. Think of the overnight guest who wants to just pull in, pull out, and keep rolling. So, that's one example of that. But also don't, minimize things like people in an RV park. Even what they want is a good atmosphere there. They want to be around other RVers, other types of people who have maybe similar interests, and they're really into the environment there, but they're less likely to prioritize some other things. So again, and I know you talk a lot about the experiences. Again, if you look at that research, you'll see a lot of what the experiences that people are seeking are. And even among RVers, they may not just be people who want to stay inside their RVs all the time. Also look at the data too. How are people living in them? What are they doing? What are the types of things they want? There's a lot in there to unpack, but read through it, digest it, then go through it again. And then what, at some point I was going to mention this anyway. One of the things that everyone should do is look at your internal information, whatever you have, your guest data. Where are people coming from? What are they traveling in? What are they staying in while they're there? What are they participating in? Then look at a report like the KOA report that we do and see what's the fit. What's the fit? How can I use this macro data at my level? And what are those trends? Are we in line with it or are we out of step? Is being out of step a good thing? It could be. Also,
That's an interesting point. Good, keep going.
so
Yeah.
so what I would encourage people to do is look through there, look at some of these like pieces of information that are in there. And for example, people, sometimes people will say, that, well, where my campground is, the area I'm in is not very diverse. I'm in a very rural area, so we don't get a lot of diverse campers. And my response would be, well, but where are your people coming from? What are your feeder markets? What are they beyond the area you're in? And I've spoken with many park owners who say this, that we only get from our local area. And it's like, why is that? So again, you can look at the national trend data, look at how people are camping, look at who is camping, and maybe look at why not. Because in every report, we always put some barriers in there, some reasons why people aren't. And think about what you have to offer and what the trends you see at your campground are, and how does that apply? Again, taking that macro information, feeding it down to the micro level, and understanding how do the two fit. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I mean, it's,
Yeah. I just want to comment on a couple of these things so I don't lose my train of thought here.
I know I'm
This is
rambling.
such, no, no, it's not rambling. It's really good information. I I really like this idea of bringing the macro to the micro. I know when I was involved in, I had a restaurant event center on an RV resort. And that was something that I did for basically for the experiential part, is I always looked at where are they coming from. And we were able to create kind of these like journeys for the guest. You're coming from these several different destinations, and we would build relationships with the people in those destinations to make sure they were sending them to us and
Hmm.
helping us with our marketing. And then kind of like, here's a day for your travel from there to us, and all
Hmm.
of that kind of thing. So that can change everything. When you have other people on your team that are not you, that are not really on your team, but they're other businesses and organizations in these other places where all your people are coming from, it drives revenue like crazy. And then you said something else. Shoot, what was it? Oh, I was afraid I'd forget what it was. Um, I don't know. What else were you talking about? Hmm, I forgot what I was going to say, but it was
Um,
very good information. You were talking about, I don't remember what it was, Scott. I knew I'd forget.
yeah, I was mostly, talking about how people using their internal data, people, looking at the macro and seeing how that applies to them at their level, or whether it does even, again, because sometimes depends on where people are located and what type of park they
Hmm.
and what services and amenities you have and who that's going to attract. Um, I think in many cases, in some cases at least, the park owner will say, "Well, here's the profile of my guest." My question is what's the profile of the guest that you would like to have? Because
Okay, let's stop right there. I'm so excited to talk to you about this.
okay,
This
cool.
is where, yeah, and the reason is that I'm looking at this from my lens, right? Like, how do
Sure.
we help people? And what are the problems that I see them having? And this seems like a subtle thing, but if you go through like a whole branding vision, like one of those things, which I've done many, many, many times with many types of businesses,
Hmm.
they'll come up with like, here's our avatar. And it's not, and then like 6 months later, they're going away from that because it's so hard. Well, we can't really attract these people, but you should not let go of that. You should let that be your guiding star and then figure out how to attract them, right? What
Hmm.
relationships do I need? What do I need to change in my branding? What do I need to change in my experience? Where am I not delivering for that type of person? And that is actually where the fun begins in my mind. Like, you're really creating for that specific guess that you have defined. So I'm so curious to hear, how do you see this?
I see it as really what you're talking about is that in all the research that we've done throughout the years, the one thing I can, say very confidently is that um, if you really want people to stay at your park and to return and to recommend it to others, that it's up to you to provide an experience, not just if you're out there just saying, here's what we have. We have this kind of RV site. We have a swimming pool. We have a hot tub. We have a clubhouse. We have this. Boom. Come visit us. No, no,
No.
that's not going to work. And again, you're going to have very little control over who arrives, who your guest is, what your guest profile is, um, or even how long they stay. What you've now said is, I'm just going to throw this basic stuff out there and hope for the best. And the converse of that is now if you talk about the experience you can have while they're there, how you manage that experience, how you truly, I mean, it's the idea of hospitality. Like, what is
Yes.
it that you're providing? What you're providing is hospitality. You're not providing an RV site. You're not just providing that. You're not just providing a swimming pool. You're not just providing bike rentals. You're providing hospitality. You're providing that experience. And it is, if you do that, the rest of this stuff doesn't matter nearly as much. It
That's right. Oh my God, I didn't know that. I guess I don't know you very well. And I love how you understand all of this, not just the data, but that real, because that's truly how I know you probably see me talking about this all the time, but everything is a vehicle for hospitality. That's how I perceive all of it. Like it's just another way to over deliver what people don't even know they want. I
Hmm.
just remembered what I was going to ask you
Oh,
before. So I'm
good.
going to say, I'm just going to interject it here so I don't forget again. But it's not even just important, but it's imperative in hospitality to understand what your guest wants. And you mentioned this earlier. You said you have to look at what they want. Okay, you might have 50 sites, but none of them are pull through. So what your guest wants is a pull through site. Do you have any recommendations on how a property can get that information directly? That, I mean, we're always looking at how to, surveys and all this stuff, that how do we get reviews? How do we get feedback? How do you really consistently, I guess I would say, because hardly anybody wants to fill out a survey. Everybody hates that
Mhm.
stuff. What's your recommendation for getting genuine feedback from your guests, whether it's what they didn't enjoy, what they really want, what made you come in the first place? Like that kind of detailed data. How do you get that from your guests?
The, I mean, first and foremost, if you can do a survey, please do it. Keep it short, keep it simple. If if you do that, you'll, and do it fairly soon after they've left, because that's a great way to do it, and you're more than likely to get a better response. It is a great way to do that. The other thing that I would recommend, because it dovetails very nicely with hospitality, is for you and your staff to go out and meet people and talk with them directly. Um,
Yes, you're so good, Scott.
And that's one of those things that I can quantify. Um,
Okay.
we did this with KOA at the campground level many years ago, and th this information's been out there, so I can talk about it now. Plus, it was quite a while ago that we did it. But what we found is that if someone had a memorable experience with, especially the owner manager, but really any staff member, their likelihood to return increased by about 12 points, 12 percentage points. That's a big margin.
That's
Just
amazing.
out there. It's like that's a really,
Yeah,
if you're a campground or glamping park operator and someone told you that you could increase potential retention by 12% or repeat visits, or people are going to recommend you by 12 percentage points, you'd take that all day. That's literally.
absolutely, for sure.
So that alone, just that factor isolated,
Yeah, that's
determines.
enough to make you want to do it, you'd think.
Right. So first and foremost, go out there and talk to the people, meet with them, ask them questions. Don't be intrusive, but talk. You'll have a conversation, ask those questions, and take notes afterwards. Jot down the what that person said. Make sure that you put it in the notes for that customer as well. So when you, in your record, your internal information that you have on every guest, you have a conversation, document it, put it in there so that that person, because you're not going to remember all these, um, next time they make a reservation with you, you see that and you'll see the note of the conversation. And that right there is gold. Because you knowing something about that person, knowing something about that previous experience, it's tied to their record. Now you know not just how they stayed with you know how they perceived their stay. And that, again, is super important. So that's another thing that you can do. You can also do, and people, in this, it sounds weird, I know, but I've done it so many times, I can tell you that people really will respond to this. Have a campfire conversation, you know, invite a group of people, offer them something, offer them, refreshments or something like that, and sit around for, a half hour or so and just talk. Talk about their experiences. Talk about camping. Don't, it doesn't even have to be specifically about your park, but about them. Have them talk about themselves. Have them engage in a conversation with what they want to experience when they're camping. What are the things that draw them in? What are the things that put them off? It's these are tools that you can use without, breaking your budget. I know a lot. Believe me, if anyone wants to hire me, that's fine. Believe me, I'll do it. But what I'm trying to do is offer ways that people can do that without having to do that. Because again, I know what it's like. So these are opportunities that you have. Again, the more information you can get from people, the better, without bugging them too much. But I think we all know where that line is. And if someone stays with you for several days and you ask them, hey, could you just take a minute and answer a couple questions for me? And those couple questions could be, how likely are you to recommend us to someone else? And why or why not would you do that? Boom. There. Those two things right there will get you a lot of information.
I really, really love this. I mean, this is actually the primary service that we were offering a couple of years ago through Expitality was founded on this complete idea where we would come in as a third party and create an experience for the guests,
Mhm.
which could be a campfire, some type of event where, you know, sponsors are bringing the food and the drinks or whatever to make it a real experience at the end of one of their adventures. So maybe some people got back from kayaking or horseback riding or whatever, gathered around the campfire, or depending on the brand, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And and then I would facilitate that conversation and tell us about your adventure and what was it like when you got back and then went into your cabin or whatever. And you're collecting all of this data that's invaluable to the owner. And the thing about doing that is the people feel like you really, really care, like you're
Mhm.
deepening that relationship. And then they feel like they can come back and that there will be a solution to whatever their complaint or challenge or, dissatisfaction might have been because you cared enough to ask and to create this event. The other thing is, once you leave, it's everything just kind of fades away. You don't remember exactly how you felt. So if there's a report that can be like, this is what happened, this is what they felt, this is what where they were dissatisfied. Okay, so the next question then is, once you have all of that information, you're saying take it and put it into like the booking software or the CRM, or how are you making sure that they are then followed up with? This is sales, guys. Like, this is
Mhm.
simply sales, if you want my opinion. And um how are you tracking that? How are you following up on that? How are you using that to incentivize them to come back again? All of that stuff. Like, it can get, and then once they come back, that you remember who they are and what they did last time, and then expand on that. What are you going to do this time?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, get it in your CRM or whatever platform works for you where you can track it. To be able to track those the contacts is, as well. I like what you said too about kind of making sure they know. Like if you make a change based on what someone told you, make sure they know that. That I'm telling that
Yeah. I
huge.
mean, can you imagine like someone, like I complained about something recently. Can you imagine if they called me up and said, hey, or sent an email or whatever. I know this was your experience. Wanted to let you know we have all new outdoor furniture. And here's a coupon for the next time you come back for a free drink and appetizer or something. And bring a friend. You're like, people just don't take the time to do that.
Hmm. That service recovery, it's so
That's it.
important. You can take
Yeah.
those disgruntled guests and turn them into your biggest advocates. I I always tell the story of how once in a restaurant, we had just horrible service, and uh, I won't give a long anecdote here, but it's
It's okay. Anecdotes are story. People love stories. So we're
at
on
the
LinkedIn. Everybody needs a story time on a Monday.
absolutely at the end of the meal, the manager came over and had a sheet of paper, and he goes, according to our records, were seated at this time. Your order was taken at this time. You didn't get your food until this time, which was like it was a long time. At a restaurant, that shouldn't take a long time, by the way. And he goes, "That's unacceptable." He goes, and I own that. He said, "Your meal today is on me." And he said, come in again. We'll give you like 20% off your meal. He goes, I just hope you'll give us another chance. I was like, oh, wow, now I'm a customer here now. It was like, to me, that was perfect.
That's right. It's so human and it's just so intuitively the right thing to do. But it
Mm,
makes all the difference in the world because it would have been that case that you described earlier where you're like, I had this experience to all my friends and family don't go there. That kills
right.
business. And
That's the
and
difference.
you don't know how many hundreds of people will not go because of that one comment that you made.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Instead, now they have, someone who's out there saying, hey, these guys are cool. They understand it. So,
Yeah, because we just want to feel seen, heard, cared for, like we
mhm.
belong, like all those basic human needs, like someone cared enough. And maybe they gave a little extra, which he did. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so KOA is implementing these kinds of surveys and they're working well. Are they doing the campfire thing and walking around asking people? It's a lot to ask of your team. Like if you don't have the right team members and I can see the first thing people will say is we're already like it's crazy. You don't know how crazy it is during the season in any
Mhm.
given day. How are we supposed to find time? Which is why I love the idea of having the event, the campfire event, where you're really having a deep conversation like, how's it going? What are the highlights? What are the challenges? And it's simply communication. It just boils down to that.
It is. And those things, yeah, I think every organization should m figure out a way to do it. There's some innovative ways out there. We're just throwing stuff around. I talk to campground owners and glamping park managers all the time, and they come up with some really creative stuff. It could be any kind of thing. It could be an activity or something like that. And you're out there just interacting with people. The campfire thing is a great way because again, you don't need as many resources to do that. And the other thing too is figure out ways to be more efficient in your front office approach. Make sure that you have the right management system and you're using the technology to your advantage because there's a lot of great tools out there now that can help free up time. And because this stuff is really important. It ensures that you're going to have something that you have to manage in the future and ongoing. So yeah, that again, lots of good opportunity. We all know that when people are in the outdoors, they're much more social anyway. And so
Yeah.
it's a great opportunity for you. And I mean, it's like, I grew up in the Midwest. We always just walk up to people and start talking anyway. So it's like I'm very comfortable doing that. And I know some people aren't quite as comfortable with that, but if you can't do it, find someone on your staff who is,
Yeah.
because
There's always someone who has it. So are you doing research and data collection on all of like the tech that's out there for outdoor hospitality and like the booking software and all that kind of stuff? Is that
we
part of
do.
your data?
Yeah, we do research on how people are using the technology and what they're looking for with technology and what works best for them and what doesn't. Because like I always say, these are touch points instead of that, back in the day, that phone call where someone made to reserve a site at your campground. they're doing it online, and that's your initial touch point, and it has to go well. If it doesn't go well, you've lost that person, you've lost that lead. So it needs to be buttoned up. You need to use, the ones that people are most comfortable with and the ones that work for you. And there's a lot of them out there. I would encourage people to go out and interview these folks. They're great people. I see them all the time at all the shows that we go to. So I know most of them at least at some level.
Yeah, there are a few. I mean, there's not that many, right? And so it doesn't really take that long to go research all
No.
of them. And I do think that it has to be the right, and all of them are great in different ways, right?
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
really like, what's the right one, just as you said, for your specific needs and your property. And then there are some others that are coming out that are pretty robust and almost too complex, I think, for some of the outdoor hospitality. Like hotel is coming in, right, to
Hmm.
outdoor hospitality. And with it comes all of the benefits and all of the liabilities. So let's make it really complicated. No, we don't want to do that, but we do want to up level the delivery of hospitality, basically, and everything that facilitates our ability to do that. So that is high tech. People love the mood lighting and the automated this and that and the other thing. Um, and then to the other end of that, the other end of the spectrum, sometimes they just want a complete off-grid, dump my phone in the box and stay in a little place with a composting toilet, right? So depending on your property, you have very, very, very different needs for that. But they still might want to just check in without seeing anyone. Some people just they want to be a hermit for a weekend.
Sure. And that, again, those are the things that are important to know. One of the things that we've been talking a lot about recently too is with this is a really good point that you bring up, is in understanding the guest, is to ask those questions up front. So just a couple questions about what they're looking for, because that can make all the difference in the world. Because your point is great, because there are people who are going to show up and maybe they don't want to talk to anyone. Maybe they just want to just hang out and be by themselves and not interact. Versus others who want to be immersed in have their kids playing with other kids and doing activities and doing stuff from all day long. So, but if you know that, and if you know it up front, you're going to be able to manage the guest experience so much better, so much more easily, and you'll have a much happier guest.
I love that idea so much. We're kind of getting off of research and data, I guess, but the whole reason for research and data is to deliver better guest experiences. And I was researching some different um, like rewards programs in hotel and how
Mhm.
they handle all of that. And I really love that exactly what you're saying, where up front you'll get a little form with just a few questions. What do you like? This kind of pillow, that kind of pillow, you know, choose from these things. But the choices were so stupid. It was like they hadn't gone in and upgraded from, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. It's like, do you want water? Well, obviously, like, so I do think there's an opportunity there. Uh, That's data collection, right? Like all
Mhm.
of this is data collection, and that allows you to then execute on that information. And that's a quick way to execute. I mean, immediately, and you can ask, are you having an anniversary or is this a honeymoon and all those things. Um, they were asking the strangest questions. I guess it was like soda or alcohol. I don't know. They just seem like that you need to be more specific in what you're asking to better understand your guests' needs.
Absolutely. And most of the stuff that we've been talking about is all stuff that has been measured. A lot of it had, over time, everything I say, I've had some kind of just to kind of expand on my hospitality experience a little bit that I didn't talk about up front. It's like I've worked in the casino world quite a bit. Actually, that's where I got my start in hospitality, was working for Caesars Entertainment and Harris Casinos. I still do work with some casinos as well on the entire hospitality experience at the casinos. I also have worked in food, and restaurants and food services, and so it's there are certain things that we see, consistently, and a lot of what you and I have been talking about. These are all things that you know, we've measured and no, I say no. I can say that fairly strongly. No work and no impact the guest. Would be the rare occurrence that it doesn't, honestly. But these are important things. It's the kind of coming full circle to the whole hospitality idea. We've measured enough in hospitality to know what some of the standards are and some of the ideas are. Again, going back to the management systems and how that can be a tool for you to free up your time and also know more about your guests so you can manage their expectations. Because one of the things we know is that if someone arrives at your park and the expectations are below what they expected, you're gonna have to really struggle to get that back. That's why I always say make sure that people know what to expect. Be honest, be
Oh my gosh.
it's
That is sorry to interject. It's just that I just recently experienced this yet again. And it's communication again. It's how are you describing the experience? And if anything, you want to have their expectations be lower and then really over deliver on it because
Mhm.
most people have pretty high expectations these days. And if it's a glamping, as much as I don't like that word, I think I finally realized how I can use it to
Mhm.
really be helpful to the guest, you know. Glamping gives up this specific idea that really does include camping, right? Your idea of camping, but a little bit better than camping.
Mhm.
And so many people are doing the opposite. They're putting up this, we're this high vibe resort, glamorous luxury experience, but then when you get there, your idea of that has nothing to do with a camping experience. So it is very, very, very important that people understand what they're getting into, and then you make it better than what they think they're getting
Mhm.
involved with. So yeah, this is so interesting. I do feel very grateful that we're in a time where tech can be our facilitator. I mean, it really is. It serves all the stuff that none of us really enjoy doing and then allows us to do the things that the
Right.
reason that we're in hospitality in the first place, which is the personal interaction with the guest, right?
Exactly.
Um, I don't know if there is a perfect system out there yet, but I think everybody's striving to get better. And now with AI, there are so many more opportunities. And every time I meet, I know you interact with these people far more often than I do, but every time I meet with them, they have another thing they've added to make their platform more robust so that you really can incorporate the whole journey of that guest within the platform. And that is a lifesaver because we're always trying to fill in the gaps. And the places the guest can fall through, that's what they remember. It's just human nature.
Mhm.
Where it collapses. It's like in sales, I've had this happen so many times where I'm like, why did they not sell me? I wanted them to sell me, but they stopped at this certain place, you know?
Mhm.
And it could have been one more email, one more text, and just helping them from the time they book, continuing that communication very regularly until, well, forever. It's a relationship, so you don't just let it
Absolutely.
go.
Right, and I agree that I think the AI development will create that more holistic experience
Ah,
in the process, and the planning and the booking and all of it. I think it will really bring that together so that it isn't as fragmented as it can be right now. And again, it's I've talked about this before, the tools that we use, like for me and the type of work I do, the tools have helped free up my time so I can spend more time on like scenario building and analysis. I think I told someone recently that when I first started in this industry and research a long time ago, we rarely did anything very complex because we were spending all of our time just trying to compile basic reports. I mean, literally physically compiling them.
Oh my
And
gosh, that's so time consuming.
yep. And
Yeah.
I would say when I first started doing research, our if we were doing most of our data collection on the phone, and we did every part of it was fragmented. So it could take us 2, 3 months sometimes to do one simple project. I can do that same project in a week now. It's it's just how these tools have been developed, and I see AI is kind of doing being a similar type of tool that's gonna help you know narrow that gap. So again, we can spend the time doing the things that we would like to be doing in hospitality, managing the guest experience, figuring out what they want, talking to them, all these things. And I think that's what it all comes down to. But in the meantime, it's also giving that person what they need, managing their expectations up front. Because again, to bring it back to data and research, we know that one, right now we're in an environment where people's expectations are ramped up because of glamping. Well, I use the word, but for lack of a better, but for enhanced services and amenities, they're experiencing it more and more. And the more someone experiences that, the more they're going to expect it when they arrive. Thus, if you are not doing that, it is incumbent upon you to make sure that that person understands that, what they're going to get when they arrive.
Exactly.
And it's okay.
Exactly.
It's okay. Some people want a, a ramp down experience. Maybe they want
Right.
it simpler. Maybe they don't want all that stuff. By the way, I'm one of
Yeah.
them. So it's like, but you're managing that still. And that's really what it's all about. Manage those expectations, because then you'll have a much more satisfied guest.
So these little mom and pops, are you collecting data directly from their operations? I mean, I would think I know that they can benefit tremendously by looking at your data and making their decisions based on that, right? Because sometimes these people are a little lost. I know there are associations and everything, but they get so overwhelmed with the day to day that they don't think it's the old, e-myth thing, like you're in the business instead of working on the business
Hmm.
kind of thing, and then you just get burned out and then you do it again the next season because you don't know what else to do. So I'm just curious, do you work with any of them, and is there specific data that you're pulling from those resorts or parks or campgrounds?
I do work with some, and one of the things I like to keep it fairly simple, at least from the start, which is um, just do a basic description of your guests. Who are they? Where are they coming from your internal data. Most people, even the small mom and pops, have this in their systems. They know where their guests are coming from. They know how many days they're staying. They know how many people are in their party. They know what they traveled in, what their accommodation is. So now, so the first step really is it's like, let's develop your profile. And then, as we talked about earlier, how does this fit with what you like your ideal guest would be? And kind of go, that's really that step one. The other thing I do, and kind of going back to macro versus micro data, to look at kind of trends and when people arrive and where they're coming from too. And then maybe looking at some of the stuff, whether it's the KOA report or looking at consumer sentiment. Um, More so, don't look at, I always tell people, typically don't look at gas prices. Gas prices are a poor predictor of camping. Everybody wants to say gas prices, but consumer sentiment is a better predictor.
Yes,
Are they feeling good or are they feeling bad? By the way, when consumer sentiment's down, a lot of times they end up camping more often. So,
it's true, and
yep.
that's a good thing.
And so don't pray for a bad economy, but understand, and
Pray
you'll
for a better understanding of how nature heals us, right?
absolutely. And understand, for example, that if you're pulling from a larger feeder market, like further away, that when there's national stress or a down economy, the people are more likely to stay closer to home. So you may have to be a little bit more aggressive in your marketing to your locals. Sometimes people forget about that, that even the people 10 miles away from you may take a trip to your park because they don't want to go any further. They're like, I'm just not feeling it. I'm like, I want to stay close to home, but I still want to go out and have an outdoor experience. To understand that, okay, if things are bad, if things are weird, market close to home. Those people from the larger areas may not be as willing to travel. So those are the types of things. Like understand where your people are coming from. Where are your guests coming from? Um, and take advantage of that. And again, based on some of these national trends, look at what people want. I mean, I talk a lot about the experience, but what type of wellness things are they looking for? There's trendy words out there, and I actually know campgrounds that are using forest bathing now in their marketing.
Oh, totally. Forest
So,
bathing, barefoot trails. I mean, this is a we are so much more educated. I love that you're sharing this about close to home because that pre-qualification, like if you put in a quick phone call or send an email with a quick survey, like why are you coming? What do you need? What's going on in your life that it allowed you to make this decision that drove you to this? And then you provide something that is customized for them, personalized. That's what people expect now. I really believe it's going beyond the experiential into the transformational. It's like,
mm,
yeah, I'm here, but I want to be this person. When I come to your place, let me be that version of
mhm,
who I
mhm.
am. Let me
I like that.
feel that. And and it's just a different perspective, but that is such an important thing. I wonder how many people are just totally missing the boat on locals.
I think probably quite a few. I've
Go do the research. No, I'm
no,
kidding.
and
It's
I mean the one in our research, we do know that people stay close to home. We've measured.
okay. Yeah. Well,
So,
doesn't it make so much sense?
mhm.
Everybody's so busy to get your family together or even one other person's schedule syncing to get away. It's not an easy undertaking.
No, it's not. And again, if people are staying close to home, also keep in mind that there's a lot of those people that may want to take a staycation. And if that's the case, those are opportunity folks as well. It's
Yeah.
like bring your staycation to us. It's like we'll curate an experience for you. We'll improve upon it and make sure that you are you have a great time. You have these
I
things and
love that.
fewer worries. I think in there lies that opportunity. So, again, in bad times, sometimes the opportunity is there.
Yeah, that is a really great point, Scott. And that staycation idea, because how often do we really have time to explore what's right around us?
Hmm.
So if someone comes in and facilitates that, by the way, do you know, and maybe you have local bands or local, you're bringing some of that to the location, the food, the beverage. There's so much people in honestly, I know it can feel overwhelming to deal with food and beverage, but it is a tremendous opportunity.
Hmm.
And there are many people, I know some incredible, well, bartenders that create experiences within themes that would happily come do a thing. It's like a show, really. I don't know. Once you get thinking outside of the box there, and working with other local people, businesses who will really appreciate those types of partnerships, there's no end to what you can create. It's an exciting business, actually,
It is.
except
And
for the hard parts.
and just to cap it off with a stat is that
Yeah,
one of the things that we did some research a few months ago on especially in local communities and small in the rural areas that in the off days of the week, like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 78% of the local businesses in hospitality, whether it's restaurants, coffee shops, whatever, are closed at least one of those days.
Hmm.
Oh, what I said was like, given that it's such a huge percentage, and many of them are closed all 3 days. I think
Oh, really? Wow.
something like close to 60% are closed all 3 days. And
That's
all
unbelievable. Wow.
so what you have is an opportunity though. Again, you talk about food and beverage. It's like if you know that and you're in a small town, figure something out, partner with someone, a food truck, do something, do a pop-up coffee event. There's so many things that you can do in
Yeah.
food and beverage. It's like, but fill that gap because again, if you have guests coming in, you're encouraging weekday stays. You want people, you want to fill up those days. You're offering incentives. You're offering
Yeah.
for people to stay on those midweek days because, again, most people have capacity. Well, now they get there and we also know that a very high percentage of people don't even cook at their campsites, even if they are just camping and not at a glamping resort. They want food and beverage. They want, something good too. So they're arriving, you've encouraged them to show up, and now they don't have that opportunity. So it is your opportunity to fill that in. And again, have happy guests and not people who go away saying that, well, there was nothing to do because nothing was open on Monday and Tuesday. So,
Yeah, the food trucks. So I've been to camping in experiences where the food trucks came in, the music came in, and it's fun. Like when my kids were little, and we get to try this, we get to try like
mhm,
different cultural foods. It's a big deal now. I mean, there's
absolutely.
so much. There's just so much to do. So think outside the box based on the data. Scott, this has been so delightful. I really, really have enjoyed your company, your all the information that you have. I'm sure there are many other things we can talk about, and we will be in the future. I think we have a lot to bring to some conversations in the future, but I do appreciate you taking your time to share all of this with everyone out there who just desperately needs it, actually. So few people actually take the time to read the data and then be creative with how you execute on it.
Mhm,
Like all these ideas are so great and so fun, and that's what we're here for.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
if people want to, I'm not selling anything, but you can go to my website, cairnconsultinggroup.com, and there's a resource library. And in there, it's all
Oh, wonderful.
reports that are publicly available. It's all stuff that's been released, stuff that we typically work on. You can go in there and look, and there's tons of reports. There's tons and tons of information. So feel free to, to do that because again, we're offering it up. Like I said, I'm not trying to sell anyone on research. I'm just saying that there are resources out there. Look at them. And the last thing I would say is I would just encourage people to ask questions. Ask
Yeah.
questions. Ask questions of the people who are providing you with data and information. Ask me. I always say, if I can't defend what I do, I shouldn't be doing what I do.
Yeah.
Please feel free to
And
ask.
and and you're welcome to leave questions in the comments, and I'm sure Scott will get back to you. I'll make sure I put your website in the comment section so people can just click and go to those resources.
Great.
And yeah, like everybody in this industry is open to conversations, to
Mhm.
helping. I've never or very rarely have I run into someone that isn't open to that. So I love that you're inviting everyone to ask questions. And that's how we all grow together and do what we're here to do, which is serve the guest where the focus
Absolutely.
should be. Yeah. Scott, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we
You
will talk again very soon.
take care. It was great speaking with you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.